strong their handshake was. I say to all of you, Abaragani, Assalamu alaikum, good morning, and welcome my brothers and sisters to the comeback. I'd like to thank everyone who made this event possible, especially considering we have honored guests, we have great speakers, we have fine forums and sessions and the exchange of information, but most of all, we have the subject matter that we're going to be talking about. We do want to thank our sponsors, including our presenting sponsors, the family-focused, interconnected, resilient, and essential Fatherhood program, which is one of our sponsors, known as FIRE. We also have Ross Employment Solutions, United Healthcare, Pathways to Responsible Fatherhood, Simple Steps, Wisconsin Community Services, Generation of Excellence Trendsetters, Employ Milwaukee, and Unite Us. We also want to represent us today with our fine honored guests, including representatives from Mayor Tom Barrett's office, representatives from Senator Ron Johnson's office, Governor Tony Evers' office, also County Executive David Crowley's office, and of course, this great center, the Italian Community Center. We want to thank you for allowing us to be in your presence and serving some really good food and allowing us to network. And if it's not the food and the coffee that's waking you up, I'm sure the networking will. And we have an outstanding program that's going to be dedicated to the subject of reentry as well as what goes on afterwards. Now, I can't start off this session about the subject of reentry without what I consider to be the elephant in the room. What belongs and what does not belong. It's a concept called second-class citizenship. If people don't know what second-class citizenship is by definition, people know what it feels like. People know what it feels like to be stigmatized. People know what it's like to be stereotyped. People know what it's like to be excluded. People know what it's like to feel like you're looking outdoors in the window and you can see people who call themselves members of a club that you're not a part of. People know that feeling. That doesn't belong here. This is family. And whether you're a service provider, whether you're an educator, whether you are delivering information at the booth, we want you to make sure that everyone is welcome in this house. So please, if you do not know people's names because you've never seen them before, you only seen them with the mask on their face, go ahead, find out their name, who they are, where they're from, what they do, what they need. And most of all, let them know that we're all part of the same team and we want the best for you. So everybody, I'm encouraging you, have the best of times. Get to meet somebody you've never talked to before. Get to know somebody who you never even imagined they had a life that was different from yours. And after that, take that information, spread the word, because this is not going to be the first reentry conference. Oh no, we got more in store, and I'm looking forward to that. So I'm going to bring to our podium someone who has dedicated her very existence to making sure that this world is a better place. And I can say I'm extremely proud of the work that she's doing for not only the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative, but also everything that made this happen. She dedicated her entire spirit to making this a wonderful event, and I really am going to be disappointed if you don't give her a big round of applause. So Natasha Dotson, come on up here from the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative. This is your mistress of ceremony. Show her some love all day. And I will see you again later this afternoon.
Thank you, Daryl. It is a pleasure to work with under such fine leadership. But good morning, everybody. Good morning. I don't know, y'all don't sound like y'all woke this morning. I've been up for 3 days trying to make sure we. So when I pass out, I'm out. But good morning, and it just makes my heart glad that you guys are all here. As Daryl said, I'm Natasha Dotson. I'm the project director for the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative. I have been in this role for, this is my 15th year. And yes, thank you. Because I am dedicated, I am committed to make sure that we are helping our men. So this conference was something we talked about for, as a matter of fact, we've talked about it previously. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Simple Steps. It's our partner agency. They do a lot of our programming. So Dart Townsend, who is their executive director, we were talking about reentry and, what are the dynamics and how can we help people, or not just talk about it, but actually do something about it. Because, I did 3 days, right, y'all? I'm gonna tell you about my 3 days in. I was locked up for 3 whole days, right? 3 days. So on my 3rd day, I'm like, you know what? When I touch down and I'm gonna get out. So that was my reentry story. But then I started meeting brothers like Josh and Ed and Brad, and I'm like, how long? And you doing what? So I'm honored to honor these individuals. I'm honored to stand before you, and I just think that this is the population that people forget about or they look over, or when you have to check that F on the box and they look like, oh, you're a statistic or you're nobody because you committed a crime. We've all done something. Those are just the ones that got caught. And that's what I tell people all the time. So don't judge people because of the mistakes that you've made. Actually, we need to welcome them back and re-enter into society successfully. So that was the purpose of this conference as a kickoff to what we're going to be doing surrounding reentry. So I just want to say thank you again for coming. Thank you again. I want to thank our presenting sponsors. Thank you, United Healthcare. We appreciate you guys. Thank you, Milwaukee Fatherhood Fire. And I also want to thank Ms. Chantel Jewell, my friend, my mentor, for being a part of our program. King Gales, thank you. Pastor Young, thank you for being here with us. Ravel from the Governor Evers' office. So I just want to send special shout outs, Miss Neva Hill, to my friend over here. He's looking at me, the young man in the building. To Mr. Draper, thank you. I appreciate you guys for being here. WCS Trendsetters, thank you, Latanya, for your sponsorship. Dart and Simple Steps, thank you for your sponsorship. WCS, so many people to thank. I just don't even know where to start. I'm excited, so I will not hold you guys long. I'm gonna get on with the program. So we're gonna call for words from our presenting sponsors. So we're gonna ask Mr. Kevin Moore, CEO of United Healthcare, to come up.
Thank you, Natasha, and I can assure you I will be short and sweet because there's a lot more important stuff to talk about. But on behalf of the 120 members of my work family at United Healthcare Community in the state of Wisconsin, we are excited to be part of this event. We are really proud to be part of this sponsorship. And I think for me, what's most important about this is we can talk about the clinical stuff, we can talk about all that other stuff, but for us at United Healthcare, we realize that health doesn't start in the 4 walls of our doctor's office. It actually starts in the 4 walls here. It starts in your 4 walls at home. It starts at your 4 walls in your home. It starts at your kids' childcare. All of those different elements for us, and for us at United Healthcare, this is a new thing for us. We're trying to evolve the way we provide care. So it's not just about, hey, you need to go to the doctor's office, which, by the way, please go to your primary care doctor. There's the plug for my clinical team to make sure that I check the box there. Or go make sure that when you have a medication, make sure that you actually get that medication. But then on the other side of it, when you talk to your clinicians or when you're talking to people, even at United Healthcare, don't just talk about your medical condition. We want to know about where you're living. How are things going in your life? And I can tell you a couple things personally. I remember when my daughter was born, and I'm just going to ask the dads in the room. How many dads in the room got the owner's manual when you brought your kid home from the hospital? Okay. 2 here said they got the owner's manual. I want to sell that because I didn't get my owner's manual. I also know that I came from a perspective and I came from a socioeconomic status that allowed me to do certain things that many men can't do. And I think for me, it's a humbling experience every single day to remind myself of the 250,000 Medicaid and dual SNP members that we serve, that they have a different life than I do. They have a different life than some of the people in this room. And for us, it's like, how do we help support? How do we help expand? How do we help dads be better dads, moms be better moms? And you know what? That doesn't start at the clinical setting. It starts right here today in this particular room. So we got a great agenda today. We are excited to be sponsors. We are proud to be sponsors. And we're excited to hear some great keynotes. I've hopefully made a couple new friends on LinkedIn with some of these guys too. So this is the beginning, and we will be here for the next one. So DJ, make a note. We'll be here for the next one and the next one, because this is critical, not only for the health of our men, but health of our community. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you again, Kevin. And also, the immunizations and blood pressure checks are on behalf of United Healthcare, so make sure they also sponsor childcare and transportation. So I just want to say thank you guys again for your generous sponsorship for that. So I get to call up another person who has been very, very helpful in this fatherhood movement with me. I call him Uncle Keith. Not Keith with the, what do you always correct me like it's Keith, not Keith. So he has been very supportive of the Fatherhood Summit with us. And so I want to thank God for Mr. Keith Parrish. I want to bring him up from Milwaukee Fatherhood Fire.
Good morning. And for all you returning citizens, welcome home. Ten years ago, Milwaukee County Child Support started a journey in expanding the scope of services that we offered. We had been granted a grant through the federal government called Pathways for Responsible Fatherhood. We got so good at it, they gave us an extension. When they changed the program and it went to Pathways for Fathers, we once again won a grant, and currently we're in a program now called FIRE. Part of what we did was we spent a significant amount of time in the various correctional institutions, whether it was on the state level or the county level, where we interacted with fathers. The three things that these programs all emphasize is healthy relationship, responsible parenthood, and economic stability. When I heard Mr. Moore said that there is no owner's manual for when you have a child, the reality is for many of us it is trial and error. But the fact that we offer these programs and words that we have dropped from our vernacular, words like deadbeat dad, bad father. Our attitude is that every father is a father, and the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. We all can get better, right? And let me do this. You might know me as Keith Parrish, but anybody that's been up in the institutions know me as the child support dude. We made a conscious change was made, and so let me acknowledge my director who's not here, Jim Sullivan, former county executive Chris Abley, county executive Dave Crowley. But one of the things the Child Support Services did was we were known as Child Support Enforcement. 10 years ago, as we got this grant, we changed our name to Child Support Services, because child support, which doesn't have the best reputation in the city, we offer so much more than collection. And part of what we now do is we now offer a program called FIRE, which is family-focused, interconnected, resilient, essential fathers. We provide support. So if you're re-entering the community, many folks have been separated from their children. What we do is provide you with the support that you need to be the best dad that you can possibly be. And so that level of support, and so let me also, this work would not be possible without our partnerships. Currently, we are at the end of our Pathways for Fathers and Families. We're working with Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative. That program will sunset next month in September. Our fire program, where we work with various partners, Wisconsin, WCS, you folks are here, thank you. Center for Self-Sufficiency and Community Advocates, these are our direct program providers. We also work within other ancillary groups, the Alma Center of Milwaukee. I got WCS, oh, how can I do this? Employ Milwaukee, and the work that they do. And so we encourage you, men, to get involved with these programs. There are incentives. We have folks who are here today, but just an overall statement. I read an article this morning in the New York Times. They said that part of the problem, and I heard this at a justice conference where a young man was sentenced to 5 years in prison. He talked to the judge, and the judge said to him, what I did not realize was that 5-year sentence I gave you became a life sentence. How do we refer to the people who return? So we stopped using terms like ex-felon, right? You've done your time. You should be able to come back and enjoy full citizenship, and we embrace you. So once again, I say welcome home, welcome home, welcome home.
Sorry about that, y'all. I'm gonna start standing close to the stage because I'm old now, so it'll take me a little longer to get back up here. But when I teach our classes out in the House of Correction, because I teach a fatherhood class, I like to show little clips just to give people snippets, because I'm a visual person. So I like to just have, so that clip right there for me is super important. We're talking about institutionalized, the statistics that they say about reentry. So that's like one of my favorite movies, is to show that clip as to what can happen if successful reentry is not made available. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to eliminate any barriers to reentry, and that's the purpose of this conference. I was reading something, and it said that data shows that 86.5% of released prisoners with 10 or more prior arrests were rearrested within 5 years. So in comparison, 60.8% of released prisoners with 4 or fewer prior arrests and 75.9% of released prisoners with 5 or 9 prior arrests were rearrested within 5 years. We're talking about the recidivism rate, the revolving door. And that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do here, is eliminate people going back or feeling like they don't have a choice. People don't understand that there's Employ Milwaukee, there's WCS, there's United Healthcare. There are places that you can go to receive assistance, so you don't have to resort to something that you've done prior. So when we're talking about this reentry process, and thank you, Keith, I appreciate that, because you kind of segued right into my clip. So I have 3 people who we're going to talk about who know the process on one side or the other. The first being Chantel Jewell, who is the superintendent of the Milwaukee House of Correction. And again, that is my mentor, my friend, my sister. We go back to the probation parole days when I was young and I was in her office like, I don't know what to do in here. And she has been a really good friend, and she has been a person who has been, who is outspoken about the reentry process. I like some of the things that she's doing out at the House of Correction, like instead of calling people offenders, they're now residents. Don't label people by their past. So she has always been someone that I'm honored to call my friend, and I would like to bring her to the stage right now.
I am so honored to be here. I was happy when Tasha asked me to come and speak at the reentry conference, because I have dedicated so much of me to working toward successful reentry for individuals. Once again, my name is Chantel Jewell. I am the superintendent of the House of Correction. I am the first Black female to sit in that role. So one thing that I informed my staff of when I started is that we're not doing business as usual. The mere fact that I hold that position means that somebody wanted some change. So I thank County Executive David Crowley for appointing me to this position. Milwaukee County has a bold vision that by achieving racial equity, we can become the healthiest county in the state of Wisconsin. So what does that mean for the House of Correction and reentry? Because we really cannot have that conversation without talking about the needs of our incarcerated population and the needs of individuals returning to the community. Why is reentry important? I have witnessed the devastating impacts of incarceration, the mass incarceration of Black men, to be specific, in our community. We oftentimes talk about the fiscal cost of incarceration, but it does not come without a social cost that we cannot continue to ignore. As the superintendent, when I look at the population of individuals in the facility that I manage, I approach the job with a different set of urgency. You see, when I look out there, I see a brother, a son, a father, a husband, an uncle, a cousin, way overrepresented in this system. So my vision is that by allowing justice-involved individuals to thrive by building upon their strengths and creating real opportunities that support change, not the illusion of an opportunity, but a real opportunity so that people can change, have real viable opportunities not to re-engage the justice system. I'm not above and I'm not scared to challenge the status quo of corrections. I've already retired once. So for those of you that don't know, I retired from the Department of Corrections in 2016. So I have an intimate knowledge of the system. Beginning my career with the youth at Ethan Allen Boys School, on to probation and parole, becoming a field supervisor in corrections. And then I got a chance to leave and look at this system from the outside through my work as the reentry manager at Employ Milwaukee. And there I really got to observe the interaction between systems and how sometimes we think we're doing what's right, we think we're doing what's best by telling people what they need and how they need without even having them become a part of the conversation. And that's something that I stopped. That's something that I always challenge my colleagues on. We have to have people who have been impacted become part of the conversation. It's not okay for us to tell people what they need without giving them representation or letting them have a voice. And so that's kind of how I operate. And so then I got another opportunity to work with the youth in the youth justice system at the Division of Youth and Family Services, bringing our babies home from Lincoln Hills. They need to be here with us, not 5 hours away. And so I live in Milwaukee. I live in 53216. So I've seen this thing. I've seen the impacts of incarceration. I've experienced it through the system, in my neighborhood. So I think I have a unique perspective. I bring a unique perspective to the table when we talk about reentry and corrections and really understanding what people need. One of the reasons I left corrections is because it stopped making sense to me. It's like I put somebody in jail, and then I let them out, put them in jail again, I let them out, they lose everything. And it was just like a revolving door, and I knew that I could do more. So I'm thankful to the county exec for allowing me to serve as the superintendent and giving me the authority to run that facility through the lens that I look through. And so we know that merely interrupting criminal behavior and locking someone up just don't work. There has to be more. I know at the House of Correction that I only have individuals for a short period of time. So our goal is we really embrace the no wrong door philosophy and feel like the House of Correction is just another door that individuals come through where they need resources and support. And so that's what we're going to give them. The real work really happens in the community though. And so we're working on engaging support system, creating intentional partnerships so that people have support when they leave. Our core values at the House of Correction are humanity. We treat everyone with dignity and respect, which is why the language changed. And some people were in an uproar that how dare I come in and forbid them to call somebody an inmate or an offender. Well, first of all, they told me that I was the superintendent and I could do that. So I used my authority to do it. Because the second core value is integrity, because it was the right thing to do. We cannot diminish people to a past mistake or a past behavior. And so we are creating an atmosphere of mutual respect. We are modeling the behavior that we expect the individuals in our care. We have an expectation of them, so they should also have an expectation of us. Security. There's an expectation when people get to the House of Correction that they're safe. And so I want to make sure that we are vigilant and we are providing a safe and secure environment, not only for staff, but the people in our care. Competency. This is more than a job. This is more than somebody sitting in a dormitory watching some individuals. We are to be competent in our duties and strive to do our work in excellence. And community. It's all about engaging our community partners. Again, people are only with us a short period of time, and so we want to stop that revolving door. So we have to make sure we're connected to individuals in the community. Some of the things that I've done since during my tenure at the House of Correction, we actually received our Nccac Accreditation. That is the accreditation from the National Commission on Correctional Healthcare. That's the gold standard of healthcare. We invited this Nccac to evaluate us because it's important to me that individuals receive quality health care while they're in a facility. We've applied for funding to do a pilot where I'm going to open up a family engagement center. There will be face-to-face visits with parents, their children, and the non-incarcerated parents. From my experience in the justice system, we have a body of evidence that tells us things that reduce recidivism. One of them is family distress. But I think we spend the least amount of resources on family distress. So I really, really want to amplify that family piece while I'm the superintendent at the House of Correction. We are currently working on a pilot with Marquette where they will bring actual students from Marquette and hold class at the House of Correction with some of our residents. So I'm excited about that. We're working with Chase Bank on providing financial literacy and creating individual financial plans for individuals upon release. I've added a social work position to work on developing reentry plans. I have brought over a housing navigator. I was at a All of Us or None conference and I kept hearing that housing is an issue. I responded. I'm funding a housing navigator from the Department of Health and Human Services to be at the House of Correction. We've also opened up a dormitory called our Resident Support Unit for individuals who have some mental health challenges and being in general population is difficult for them. And so all staff there, I have 25 staff trained in crisis intervention. We have more of a mental health presence on it in that dorm. And so we're doing a lot of great things. I've opened my door to credible messengers where historically they were kept out. Individuals who had the lived experience. I was like, but you guys bring more of the credibility than me to the table. So we all have our sphere of influence, and I want to do what makes a difference versus just doing something to just do something. So last thing I'd like to say is it's just important that to provide opportunities that support change so that we can reduce the number of individuals coming in and out of jails and prisons. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chantel. Can we give her another round of applause for all the great things she's doing out there? I can remember working in the House of Correction, I was a social worker, maybe about 15 years ago, and they were so strict. There were so many things that we couldn't do. So thank you for creating some positive change out there. So next I want to bring Connor Williams. So I know when I started on this reentry council, I'm like, okay, I want to be I talk a lot, but I want to put my mouth where all this energy, I want to make sure I'm doing something about it. So when I was approached by Connor to be on the reentry council, at first I'm like, man, I don't want to be on another group. But then when he started having the meetings and the passion that he brings and all of the things that I'm learning and the people that I meet, I'm like, this is actually good. So thank you again, Connor, for having me a part of the reentry council, and I want to have him to come up and talk about that. So Connor Williams with Community Advocates.
Thank you, Natasha, and thanks for organizing this. This is a hopeful day for our community here in Milwaukee, a day of healing and hope, and I appreciate the aspiration that this is the first of many. I'm from Ireland originally. I fell in love with a girl from Milwaukee after I left university, and that's how I ended up here. And I was still in love with her, Lisa Hoyler, and I appreciate to live here. But one of the things that struck me from when I first came to Milwaukee is the divisions that we have in our community. Divisions across race, divisions across socioeconomic lines. And I live in Wauwatosa. When I first came here, I was very fearful of the African American community in the inner city. I was very fearful of people who've been previously incarcerated or who had criminal justice involvement. And I was blessed to get connected with Nccac, Milwaukee Inner City Congregations Allied for Hope. And within Nccac, Reverend Joe Alwinger, Reverend Joseph Jackson, and Pastor Willie Briscoe, they've opened my eyes. There's a lovely part of scripture, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. And with their help and with help from many people in this room, I have been able to let go of some of my fears and some of my stereotypes and to be a worker with many people in this room for making Milwaukee a better place in the future. I work at Community Advocates Public Policy Institute. I'm an economist by training. And when I was in Nccac, I became involved in the AODA committee and the basic injustice that people who are addicted to substances who had health insurance, it would be treated as a clinical problem and they would go for treatment. People who are poor, particularly many people of color in this community, didn't have health insurance and they ended up incarcerated. And not only is it oppressive to them as people, but it also doesn't make any economic sense. To lock somebody up for $35,000 a year instead of sending them to a decent programming in the community that costs maybe $6,000 or $7,000 for outpatient doesn't make any economic sense. So, thank you. So it became a shock to me to learn that we as a state in Wisconsin spend $1.3 billion a year on our Department of Corrections, more than we spend on our University of Wisconsin university system, and that if you go back to 1975, we had approximately 5,000 people in state prison. Today, we have something in the region of 21,000 people in state prison. So untangling those things, I started work for Community Advocates about 10 years ago. Economics at its best is about human flourishing. It's about how we can interrelate with each other so that we as a community can flourish. Economics at its worst is about exploitation. And we have a choice to make as a community. Do we want the exploitation version of economics, or plantation economics is another characterization for that? Or do we want one where we're in community together, where we flourish? So I've, through working on subsidized employment, Transform Milwaukee Jobs Program and the Transitional Jobs Program, I ended up being involved in the criminal justice space. And so I'm grateful that through Bill Lipscomb and others, the Assistant U.S. Attorney, a number of years ago we started something called the Reentry Council. And the Reentry Council is a subcommittee of the Community Justice Council. The Community Justice Council in Milwaukee is made up of the mayor, the sheriff, the county executive, the chief of police, the district attorney, all of the leaders of our criminal justice and civil space. But prior to starting the Reentry Council a few years ago, it only focused on pre-trial aspects of our criminal justice system. We were neglecting the need of those coming home from incarceration for support so that they don't return to incarceration. And so I'm with many people in this room that I see, Ken Gales and others, many people, Ruben, Adam, there's probably 30 people in this room who I appreciate to work with in the Reentry Council, that we as a community are trying to attend to the needs of those coming home from incarceration so they do not go back to incarceration. But more importantly, There's a Catholic theologian, Richard Rohr, who speaks about the wounded healer. The people who know how to heal the wounds that we have most deeply around corrections are people who've healed from those wounds or are healing from those wounds themselves. They are subject matter experts. And that's one of the reasons that I appreciate the strength of the Reentry Council, is that we raise up brothers and sisters who were once themselves incarcerated to lead us out of the mess that we've made of things, because they're the ones who know how to get us out of the maze. There's two things I'd also like to share that I've encountered over the years that are meaningful to me. One is a colleague of mine, Rob Cherry at Community Advocates, who then went on to employ Milwaukee and then the Department of Workforce Development. His grandmother had a saying, hurt people, hurt people. I had never heard that before, and I think that the violence that we have in our community is because there are people who have suffered great hurts, and they don't need to be hurt more. They need to be helped. Another expression that was helpful for me was Jojo Pa and Soroma, who used to work at the Alma Center, had this beautiful expression that pain that is not transformed is transferred. And I think we've got ourselves in a mess, in a cycle where we incarcerate too many people who come out from incarceration get reincarcerated because their pain has not been transformed into a power for healing, and they end up going back. So I appreciate very much to be part of the reentry space. The Milwaukee Reentry Council meets on the fourth Wednesday of every month from 2 to 3:30. That's an open meeting. Any and all people are welcome there. We had one yesterday and we had 65 people on the Zoom call. Once COVID is over, we hope to meet again in person. But anybody who feels that they can contribute towards us getting to a better place, us getting to the beloved community that Representative John Lewis spoke about and devoted his life to, is welcome to be part of the Community Justice Council. We have a healthcare task force, and Progressive Community Health Center and Advocate Aurora both have clinics now that are intentional about providing services to men and women coming home from incarceration. They're not treated like second-class citizens. Those are called transitions clinics. If you're interested in that, you should see me. We have a housing subcommittee, housing task force. Housing is a major problem, particularly for people who are on the sex offense registry. We're trying to address that in a systematic way. And the last area that we have a subcommittee on is employment. People need to be able to access the dignity of work. If you think that you can help in any of those areas, if you come see me, we'd appreciate to have you working with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you again, Connor. And I encourage anyone to be a part of that meeting. This is one of the only meetings that I'm on for an hour and a half, and I'm not bored, or I'm not spaced off, or I'm not thinking about what am I going to cook tonight. They are very informative. You have a lot of people who are at the table, and I appreciate the Reentry Council. It is so I encourage you guys to reach out to Connor, become a part of that council, because it's a very good group of individuals who are coming together for the same mission. So I just want to, did I see her move out the room? Okay, she left, I think. Nope, I don't see her anymore. Okay, I'll let them know later. So I just want to say, they ask me a lot of times the question I get as a woman in a lead role in fatherhood. They're like, well, how can you be a lady and how can you be in this position as a director in this fatherhood movement? And I'm like, because I got some great brothers around me. So I have people who will come that I can call and I can reach out to, who will come and they'll come in this space. So being in front of the fathers and talking to them, I knew I needed great men around. So the Fatherhood Initiative, we are a small group. Daryl he is a fantastic director of the overall organization. I appreciate him because he allows us to, what do you think? What do you think we should do? And then Angel, it's three of us. It's me, Daryl, and Angel. We are the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative, but we make things happen. So we were talking about programming as it relates to fatherhood, and I'm like, well, we don't really have the capacity to do both. I mean, I'm the person who, Angel does all of our intake, she does all of our pathways, I do all of our events, and I set up all of the programming, but I'm like, we need somebody to help actually facilitate programming. And so this is how we came to our next speaker. We partnered with Simple Steps because this guy also is from the reentry population, and he was talking to me about his story, and I was like, man, for real? So every time I hear somebody's story, I tell people all the time, I'm like, dang, how did you survive that? But people are determined to do something different when you make a mistake. I've seen that. So I want to bring, so Dar has done dynamic with the fathers in our program, training them in CDL, forklift, just having fatherhood groups. So I just want to bring him to the table to talk about his story, about the reentry process and why it's important. So Mr. Townsend, if you can come up.
How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Good morning. Good morning. I never talked in front of this many people before, so bear with me, y'all. My name is Dar Townsend, director of Simple Steps. Simple Steps is a program that pretty much came up with something that when I got out of prison, I did 5 years. When I got out of prison, I had nowhere to really go to get some help with training or any type of thing I wanted to do. I had nowhere to go. So with that, I came up with the program Simple Steps to help guys get trained and stuff that's reachable, like truck driving, forklifts and things like that. So a little bit about my story. I come from a single mother of 5 kids, on drugs, homeless at 13, had to figure it out from there. So that led to prison, selling drugs, all that stuff like that. Did 5 years. When I stepped inside a Dodge Correctional Institution, I was like, I don't belong here. I knew I didn't belong here. So my whole time in the prison, I was planning my out. I had an out. So I had a plan for what I was gonna do when I get out. And I stuck to that plan. That plan was being a truck driver. So I used to get the classified ads every morning in the day room, and I looked for jobs. And I seen a whole bunch of truck driving jobs. You can get paid this much money. You could do this, truck driving. So every day for that 5 years, I got the classified, and I made sure they had truck driving jobs still available, because that's what I was gonna do when I got out. So I made it through. I got out, which it seemed like that was never gonna happen. And the guys that's in jail seemed like you're never gonna get out. But that day came, and I went to truck driving school up in Sun Prairie, and it was a hurdle with that because I wasn't able to get in because I didn't have any credit. I didn't have all the money, but they said you can finance it. So with financing it, my credit wasn't right, so I couldn't do it. So I had to sit back, sorry about that. I had to redo my plan, and that was hard. So I kind of went back to the streets and what I knew. I kind of fell back into the old life, and then. Later on down the road, I was able to get into truck driving school. My sister helped me get into truck driving school, would co-sign for me and everything. So I got into the trucking school, and I completed trucking school. Swift, the truck company Swift had recruited me. And I'm like, yes, I'm on. So I'm in the application process. They wanted me and everything like that. So I'm like, good, it's coming true. They called me probably like a week or two later and was like, yeah, your background check came back, and we can't hire you because of your felony. I'm like, man. And so he's like, give us a call in 10 years, you can come back. It's like, 10 years? He's like, yeah, when that felony is 10 years old, then you can come back. And I was like, wow. So it crushed me. it just crushed me. I'm like, man, what I'm gonna do now? I can't drive for no truck. I can't drive for a company. So that led me to, do other things. I went back to the streets and did what I knew I can do. And then got in trouble again, and that was it for me. That was it. I got in trouble again, kind of didn't go back to prison, but kind of got slapped on the wrist a little bit for what I did. And then that was a wake-up call for me. Since I couldn't drive for a company, I decided to create my own company. And that was the back door. Yeah. That was the back door that I went through, to get into what I really wanted to do. So that happened in 2016. I opened my trucking company. I started my trucking company and was zipping up and down the road like nobody's, I was gone. And, all my friends, I had friends watching me do it, guys that got out of prison, and they like, man, what you doing? Let me get a part of that. And, it led to me, telling guys how to start their trucking companies, what to do, where to go, who to see. With my insurance company, I'm giving all, everything that I got, I'm giving it to them. So, that led to me creating the program where I'm training these guys to, learn how to drive these trucks and start your own company or go drive for a company if you want. And pretty much just, trying to help the guys, because I know the struggles we went through getting out of prison, because it's a whole lot of stuff in between that I didn't tell y'all, but it was tough. And we need more of guys willing to help. If we can't go through one door, we can't get through the back door, we got to climb in the window. But we got to get in, the best way we can. And the comeback is the perfect thing. The comeback is what you got to do. Don't never give up, and stay down, and just keep pushing. And if any of the guys need my assistance, I give you my card, my number. We can hook up and whatever you want to do. If it's I'm helping with start LLCs. Like if you got a business plan that you want to put together and start with. It don't got to be trucking, it could be anything. I help you get your LLC together, start your business credit, do stuff like that. If you don't want to go work a job, or if you can't, if you feel like, the felonies are in the way. So create your own thing, and I'm here for y'all. That's it. Thank y'all.
night, everybody. So I just want to share something. I remember a time, every time they say, where do the strong go when they get weak? So I have a really good friend of mine. I remember when I got discouraged about some things, and this applies to anybody in the reentry community. She sent me this. She said, scientists says bees shouldn't be able to fly because their wings are too short and their bodies are too fat. Bees don't live by limitations of man, therefore they fly anyway. So forget the limitations man put on you and continue to soar. So I want to share that with anybody who's feeling discouraged in the reentry community. When they say what you can't do, what the statistics say you can't, that's all a bunch of mess. Soar anyway. When they tell you you can't fly, fly anyway. When they tell you that you can't jump, jump anyway. You just gotta believe that you can believe that you can believe. I always shared a story about my daughter. My daughter has cerebral palsy, and they told me when she was 2.5 years old, oh, she's never gonna be able to walk. She'll never talk. She'll never do any of that stuff. You might as well fit her for a wheelchair. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. So they called the social services and had this social worker visiting me for about a year. And I'm like, I'm not putting her in a wheelchair because she's going to walk. And they're like, well, she's not, for anybody with cerebral palsy, with her type of condition, she's not going to walk. I'm like, she'll walk. And one day at 4 years old, she just started walking. And then so I don't believe when they say what you can't do. And I know she's probably gonna kill me, but I still want to give a special shout out to my sister over here, LaTanya Baker over at Trendsetters. She created a dance group for children with disabilities, and my baby is in a dance group, so don't tell me what people can't do. So I just want to give a shout out for her for creating that space. People will make a way for you. So now we're getting to the honorees. I just want to share a quick story about how we came up with this comeback. And I know I met Ed Hennings a while back, and we were talking about the reentry and some of the things that he was doing, and he was doing this book. And I bought his book, and I was on the plane, and I'm reading the book. I almost forgot to get off the plane because I'm reading the book, and the book was so good, and we're talking about stories of how you can overcome. And I'm like, the comeback. So usually we do a reentry council with Ken Gales over here, who bullies me into doing all this work every year. But I love you, Ken. So I saw Ken at the laundromat one morning, and we were talking about what can we do about reentry, some type of program, because some reentry summits are dynamic. If you've ever been to one, Ken and his team does a great job. And Chantel, all the work he make us do, yeah, he owe us dinner, right? Okay. So we did, of course, because of COVID, we weren't able to do it last year, and we're like, how can we do something? What can we do? And Ken was like, yeah, you know what? We should do something to highlight people who actually been there and they've overcome it. They've beat the statistics. And he was like, the guy named Ed Hennings? I'm like, yeah, I heard of him before. I talked to him. I met him a little bit about, in the reentry world. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to call him up and I'm going to talk to him about maybe branding his brand, the comeback, and making this into a conference. And so I called Ed and I was like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. And he's like, man, sign me up. And not only did he bring Brad and tell me about Brad, we were talking about who else deserves this honoree, who can I honor, who not only, they went through their triumph and they overcome, never said it was easy, but they did it. And I was like, man, let me tell you about Josh Johnson. This is my buddy from middle school. I remember when he had the little hair, they used to call him Egon. And I'm like, and then you know what? And he was like, well, then there's Adam Purcell. And I'm like, I seen Adam a couple times. I didn't know his story. And I was like, and then we got to get Tori. I said, Tori Johnson, my big brother over there. I said, we got to get Tori. So we narrowed it down to these 5 awesome, dynamic individuals, and when I was hearing their stories, they made my 3 days look super light. I'm like, but I was gone for 3 days. They like, girl. So now we get to the part where we have them sharing their story, and I said, you guys have to come. Not only are we going to honor you, but I need you to share your story. I need you to give people a snippet into what it's like, into your struggle, into how you never gave up. So I want to make sure that you guys are able to hear from them. So we're going to start with Adam Purcell. So I should have come up in that nice old orange suit.
Good morning. First, I just want to thank everybody for blessing us with the most precious commodity you can possibly give us, and that's time. I feel a lot of the people in this room understand that concept intimately, so for that, I'm eternally grateful for you. Secondly, most people in this room are probably wondering, what in the heck is this white, bald-headed, pit bull-looking, Orange County Jail business suit wearing dude gonna tell me about comeback? I get it. And the word comeback, come back. The implication is that you are now somewhere where you didn't used to be. A lot of times, that where I'm not now was rock bottom. And for a lot of people that are afraid to embark on that journey of change, it's because of their past. And they think to themselves, man, I've done too much. I've made too many mistakes. What's the point? Well, let me show you what rock bottom looks like. But more importantly, let me show you what you can come back from. So I'm going to take you back to when I was like a lot of you guys. I was a good kid. I got good grades. I didn't get in a lot of trouble when I was a child. But at the age of 14, I met one kid, and he was my gateway friend to other friends my parents didn't want me to associate with. I'm sure most people can probably relate to that concept. And those friends were gang members. And within a very short period of time, I realized I want to be like them. I want to dress like them. I want to drive the cars that they drive. I want the women that they have. I want to be a gang member, so that's what I did. I joined a gang. And by being the youngest member of the gang at age 14, about to turn 15, I was always told, it's up to you to protect our neighborhood. Because if you commit some sort of crime, you'll just get a slap on the wrist. And I bought into that philosophy, like so many of us in this room have. So 3 days after I turned 15 years old, 72 hours after my 15th birthday, I did just that. I protected our neighborhood on 21st and Mineral in broad daylight, when rival gang members came to what I considered to be our neighborhood, and myself and my future co-defendant would shoot 20 times and shoot 2 people, unfortunately taking the life of one of those individuals named Robert. Back in the 90s, this is September 26, 1995, Milwaukee was getting tired of juveniles committing crimes, getting sent to Wales or Ethan Allen for 3 years, being released and committing more crimes. They were tired of it, and understandably so. So I was obviously arrested. It's broad daylight, witnesses everywhere. My own guys quickly turned on me. The gang leader quickly turned on me and said, that's the guy. He was acquitted at trial. They wanted to make an example out of me. I was found guilty, deservedly so, of first-degree intentional homicide, and that charge carried a mandatory life sentence. So they got a chance to make an example out of me. And I was sent to Green Bay at 5'1", 108 pounds, literally the youngest and smallest person in that entire prison. Prairie du Chien wasn't built yet. Ryack wasn't built yet. They didn't know what to do with me because I was literally the smallest and youngest person in that entire prison. And I didn't want to be a victim. So I got into a lot of trouble trying to prove that I wasn't this little 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. I didn't even have facial hair on my face. I used to make fun of people. I don't have to buy razors. And then I got into a fight with a correctional officer. I caught another charge inside of Green Bay when I beat up a correctional officer. I was so afraid of looking forward that I did everything I possibly could to distract myself from the future of that life sentence. I was the youngest person sent to Supermax Correctional Institution when it first opened. I was literally on the first bus there. Now I'm in Supermax, still getting into trouble, making officers suit up, use the shock shields, trying to bite fingers off, acting like a pure animal, strapped to an 1.5-inch thick rubber mat, rock bottom. And I lay there, strapped, 8 straps across my body. Everything itches because I can't scratch it. Come back. How could I possibly come back from serving a life sentence on administrative confinement in Supermax strapped to a table? Come back. Come back. And that's where God came into my life. He found me because so often people say, I found God. God isn't lost. We are. He found me in that moment and said, you have a long road ahead of you, but you tried it your way. How'd that work out for you? Not well. Not well at all. So in that moment, I decided to renounce my gang affiliation because I was tired of running from the past. The past is fleet of foot. It'll always catch you. It will always catch you. So I said, okay, I'm going to try it your way. I couldn't do anything about it because I was strapped to a table. But after I was released from control status, I was sent back to my cell. I wrote a letter to the gang leader and said, I'm sorry, I'm done. I know there's going to be repercussions, but I'm done. It would take almost 3 more years before I could work myself out of the hole that I dug for myself, because for some crazy reason, the administration didn't just believe me that I had changed. I got 42 or 43 conduct reports in 1999. In 2000, I got 0. 0. So I was eventually sent back to Green Bay, where I got involved with programs where kids were brought up from Milwaukee. That's where I first met Ed, my barber when I had hair. And I started to write a book called Anatomizing the Gang Culture. 6 years in Max. After the first 5 years in Max, I was sent down to Medium in Oshkosh, where I again ran into Ed and Brad, which, off the topic here, a minute ago, we took a picture, and I was like, my goodness, birds of a feather, they say, right? Always flock together. We did on the inside doing positive things. It should come as no surprise as we do the same thing on the outside. So I got in a program there called the Youth Awareness Program where kids were brought in, and we talked about our choices, our change. Come back. Did 7 years there, got transferred down to minimum security, published my book while in prison. It was harder to publish the book than write the book from inside, because you don't have access to computers, you don't have access to DVD players, CD-ROMs, and all that sort of thing. It took so long to get that done, but I did it. Come back. Almost a quarter century later, after 23 years in prison, I was released in 2018. 2 months before my release, I received a visit from the CEO of the company I work for now called Partners in Hope, and we're a faith-based prison reentry program. He and a board member came out to Oak Hill Correctional Institution and conducted a job interview in the visiting room with the warden. Said, if you ever get out, because I was still serving a life sentence, if you ever get out, we will hire you. Those closest to the problem are often closest to the solution was the philosophy he lived by. So October 11th, 9:01 a.m., I was released. Come back. Now that is a story from the belly of the beast. Serving a life sentence in Supermax, 5 360s stacked on top of each other, administrative confinement, strapped to a table, to release. And that's only the beginning. And I'm glad I have witnesses for what I'm about to share next, because you're not going to believe it. And this next part isn't anything about me. It's about what you can do. If I can do what I'm about to share, you can do more. You can do better. That's why we're here today. We're not here to talk about us and what we did. We're We're here to talk about what you can do better than we did. So now I'm free. I wanted it my whole life. Now what? Partners in Hope, they did hire me. My title is the Community Outreach Specialist, so it's my job to start going into the community to show others there is another side. There is a human being behind that number. And I started to embrace it. For so many years, I was defined by the word on the back of the suit, inmate. I started to let it dictate my future. I said, that can't be. I wear this suit now with my inmate number on it now, with the word inmate on the back, because I take away all of its power. I refuse to let this... I refuse to let the color orange, the word inmate, institutional greens dictate how I act tomorrow. I refuse to let those colors, those words, prevent me from reaching my potential. And on this journey, I attended my first reentry network meeting. And some of the people there, Ken Gales, the federal reentry director, Sylvia Jackson, the DOC reentry director, the head of probation and parole. I'm like, what am I doing? Sitting in a room with all these people that spent their careers kind of having me in prison. And they were talking about who wants to be the next chairman of this committee, and nobody raised their hand. So you know what my little dumb butt did? I understand what it takes. And you know what the first business card that came my way was? It was Ken Gales, that I still have, who scared me at that time because he's a very serious individual. He said, we have to talk. Times are starting to change. People are starting to look at you for who you are and not for the mistakes that you made in the past. I eat, sleep, breathe, and drink reentry. That's all I do is think about how can I help those of us who have been in the system successfully transition into a life that we never believed imaginable. Then the police shootings happened. George Floyd, Blake. And I realized there's so many things that these individuals have in common, that all of them were incarcerated as well. It's like, there's a commonality here. One of the only hashtags I use when I post is don't ask for change, be the change. I said, okay, I see two sides here. And there's a lack of humanization that leads to these acts. So I said, you know what we should do? Rather than complaining about it, let's go to the police academy and talk to those new recruits that are going to be the officers 10, 15, 20 years from now. And you know who I called? I said, hey, Ed, you want to go undercover into the police academy? Ed said, absolutely. Didn't even think twice. We got gold shields made and everything. We were lieutenants from Detroit. Right hand of God. And we went undercover into the police academy, presented as if we were lieutenants from Detroit. The goal to humanize ourselves. And once we humanize ourselves, then they would listen. So we presented, we fooled them to think that we are officers, scared to death. And then we took them out into the community. All 84 of the newest recruits in Milwaukee County, loaded them onto 2 tour buses, and we took them to Ed's crime scene. And there was Ed standing in his orange suit saying, do you look at me differently now? You just liked me a minute ago, you can't hate me now. So rather than cry and complain about it, we went to where they are trained and said, we are human beings. We are human beings. We made a mistake, but please don't define us by that mistake. Please do not define us by that mistake. If anybody wants to talk to me afterwards about what we're doing in Reentry now, man, please come up to me. We're a little bit short on time, so I'm going to end there, but thank you again for all your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Very poignant story, very important story. We also want to honor your presence as one of our speakers and make sure, let me show this to everybody. Make sure everybody sees a wonderful gift from us. When we say welcome home, and you can come back from anything.
Thank you. So I'll tell you the concept behind the awards. It's shaped like a diamond. You know how diamonds are, and they rough around the edges a little bit. So that's why I want to let you guys know that. So I'm gonna call Josh Johnson up.
Good morning, everybody. I'm gonna need a little bit louder than that. Good morning, everybody. That's what I'm talking about. Now let me go ahead and set this little alarm clock right here, so when it go off, you know that means I got to shut up right then. Cause Tasha, she right, we known each other since 6th grade, and while she was ribbing on my hair, she had the fresh Jerry curl back then, just so you know. Just so you know. I love you, sis. So first and foremost, I wanna thank Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative for inviting me and honoring me to speak today and share my story. And in these brief 10 to 12 minutes, I'm gonna share a story of how I was, or how I came from Joshua Johnson, inmate number 305178, to Joshua Johnson, State Director of Wisconsin Apprenticeships. So now, probably like Ed, Brad, Tojo, Adam, our stories are all gonna be different, but it's gonna be funny to hear the similarities. Because as Adam was talking, there's many similarities that we've all had as we've gone through this process. So I wanna open this up to say I have 4 keys to success. And as a part of my story, you're gonna hear all 4 of those keys to success. Number 1, attitude. Number 2, accountability. Number 3, change your circle. And number 4, the absolute most important one for someone who's been released from prison, patience. So I go back to 1995. It's funny that Adam brought that up. I was arrested in 1995 as well. And he's right. They were tired of juveniles committing crime. I was 17 years old. Some friends of mine got together. We were 2 weeks away from graduating high school. One of my friends had a 4-year full ride scholarship for football. Me and 2 of my other friends were gonna go to UW Parkside to go into business communications. Who knows? I don't know what we were gonna do. We were gonna go chase girls and play sports. That's what we were gonna do. And somebody came up with the idea, let's do some armed robberies. Now, it's never a great idea. You know, who comes up with the idea, let's do some armed robberies? But at that point in time, each and every one of us was going through our own personal struggles at home. Myself, I was going through a very violent and rough divorce between my parents. My other friends were having some issues at home that may have been similar or may have been different. But it was at that point in time that I felt like if my parents didn't love me, then I don't love myself. And I couldn't figure out how to capture that or how to talk to somebody, right? You're 17, who are you gonna talk to? Your 17-year-old friends who are gonna be like, oh yeah, no, I feel you, I'm doing the same thing. So somebody came up with the idea, let's do some armed robberies. For 2 weeks straight, right after prom, high school prom, my senior prom, we committed armed robberies on the east side of Milwaukee. We terrorized the east side of Milwaukee. We robbed any and everybody we saw. Even if it looked like you didn't have money, we were gonna come find out if you did. We had no clue what we were getting ourselves into. Much like Adam said, when you think you're that young, you just think you're gonna get a slap on the wrist. We got arrested, charged, told at that point that we were facing 420 years in prison. Now, 17 years old, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, ooh, I'm scared now. Let me just call my mother so she can come get me out of here. What I didn't realize is I would never see my mother, or I would not see my mother again for 10 years as a free person from that day that I got locked up, May 27, 1995. Now, what I didn't understand is that over those next 10 years, I was going to become, right? So you think about it, you're in prison, and you think that for those 10 years, you're living life, right? Life doesn't begin until you walk out that door. That's when life begins. I wasn't paying bills. I ain't have to worry about the lights getting cut off. I ain't never have to worry about eating because breakfast, lunch, and dinner was served no matter what, even if I didn't like it. I didn't have to worry about clothes because they give you free clothes. They give you free underwear, free socks. They give it to you. They give you everything you need. So I didn't have to worry about anything. So for 10 years, I didn't have to do anything but just breathe and dream about the day that I was going to get out of prison. So I go back to 1996 when I ended up at Columbia Correctional, better known as Portage. I walked into the cell. I met a man by the name of Curtis Ellis, inmate number 128906. What I didn't realize is Curtis would become one of my best friends throughout the time I spent in prison. Curtis had a life sentence, natural life. No chance of ever getting out of prison. And when I got in there, I was, much like Adam, I was probably a little bit taller, but I was like probably 120 pounds. Like I was a little kid. I came fresh out of high school. And Curtis had fought every one of his roommates that he met because Curtis wanted to be by himself. He wanted to serve his life sentence by himself, but they wouldn't let him. They were like, nope, you're gonna get a roommate and you're gonna do what you need to do to stay in with the roommate. But what I didn't find out is, or what I found out later, when I walked through that door, Curtis said, I'm not gonna fight this guy. I'm gonna help this guy change his life. So as some people say, I sat at the foot of elders. I sat at the foot of Curtis, and he taught me so much about getting out and never coming back. You know, when you go in prison, each and every one of us who've been to prison, we think this is where we're supposed to be, right? Yeah, you know, we have to prove that point. Even though it sounds so stupid, that's what we say. We're supposed to be here. Oh, no, I'm this, I'm that. And Curtis told me straight out, man, this ain't for you. He was like, look, man, when you get out, don't you ever bring your butt back in one of these prisons. Now, I was only 18 at this time, so of course I'm still young, stupid. It took me many years to really resonate on what Curtis taught me and told me. But throughout the rest of my prison sentence, it rang true in my head that this isn't you. You need to get out and do something different. So it's funny because, you know, the wisdom that he was sharing, I would start to hear it throughout the rest of my prison sentence. I went down to Texas for a couple years due to overcrowding. Then I ended back up at Oshkosh. So when you brothers talk about Oshkosh, I was like, man, it's like, you're right, birds of a feather, right? Who would have thought? I ended up at Oshkosh. I met a brother by the name of Bryant Wilcox. Many of you may know him, Battlebox Videos. He has a store on 55th and Lisbon. I was in prison with Bryant when he was dreaming up Battlebox Videos. He used to draw the stuff in the day room. We used to sit there together and talk about how we were never gonna come back to prison. And you know, those around us, they would look at us and they would say, man, y'all sound stupid. Don't ever say you're not coming back to prison because you're jinxing yourself. Nah, bro. We ain't jinxing ourselves. I'm claiming it. I'm not going back to prison. So every day, thank you. Every day I learn that I'm starting to manifest what's going to happen now and what I'm going to do moving forward. So every day and every night I used to recite that. I'm not coming back to prison. I'm not coming back to prison. And that's how I live my life. I got involved with youth apprenticeship. I sound like I'm at work now. The youth awareness program as well, talking to the youth. That engaged me, and I was excited about that. Y'all remember the trams, you know, they take the guards all the way. I used to drive those. And it was funny when I used to drive the trams because who I thought I was not really who I was, right? So in prison, for those of you who've been to prison, you know that there's this distinct line, that inmate officer. And what I started to find out was inmate officer are the exact same. They're just like me. Many of them have committed crimes and may have never gotten caught. So at the end of the day, I normalized and said, wait a minute now, I'm no different than anybody else. So it was with that thought process as I got out that I started to dissect the things that I ran into and that confidence, to try and build that confidence up. So I'm gonna tell you a real quick story here before my timer. I said it a little early, that way I know I have a little time extra. Tell a quick story about for the men and women in here who are struggling when it comes to employment after incarceration. A friend of mine told me that Walsh Construction was hiring right here on the Market Interchange. I went down to the office, and I walked in, and I saw a man sitting there, and I walked up to, there was an admin assistant, and she said, "Can I help you? Can I get an application?" So I sit down, I start filling out the application. You know what number, or you know what question I get to. It's like the 4th or 5th question. You know, it ain't far after your name and your address is, have you been convicted of a felony, right? Well, back in the 90s and early 2000s, they taught us to write, "We'll discuss an interview," right? Most horrible thing to ever write on there, because it's like, no, we ain't discussing nothing. You be much more transparent by saying, "This is what I did," and then explaining it when you get into the interview, right? But I was just about to write that on there, and 3 interns came walking from the back. This is true story. All these years later, it still plays in my head. They started looking through applications, a stack of about 200 applications. Every one they pulled up, somebody had been convicted of a felony or they'd been to jail. One of the guys said, "I would never hire somebody who's been to jail." Well, let me just tell you, at that point, I was like, I guess I ain't gonna be working here, because I don't even know who this dude is, but let me go ahead and just finish filling this out. But there was a guy by the name of Jay Titus. He looked up and he said, "Not me. If someone's desperate enough to come to work or steal, then they're desperate enough to come to work every day and make money." Convicted, 3 counts armed robbery, 1 attempted armed robbery, served 10 years. I wrote any and everything down on that piece of paper at that point, because I said, this guy's gonna give me a chance. When I was done, turned my application in, it went to the bottom of the stack, typically where it goes, right? And I said, "Can I speak to him?" She said, "Yes, that's fine, go ahead." He got off the phone, and I said, "I want to say thank you." And he's looking at me perplexed, like, "Why do you want to say thank you?" And I said, "I want to say thank you because it's a guy like you that would give a guy like me a chance." Opened up my application, told me to explain. In 60 seconds, I told him everything he needs to know about me. 2 days later, he called me at 6 in the morning, offered me a job to help start working on the Market Interchange. I had a successful career as an apprentice for 2 years, and then I worked as a journey worker for 4 years in Milwaukee and Chicago. The key that I want you to understand, how I came from 305-178 to State Director of Apprenticeships, is I never gave up. Nor did I know that day when I signed my apprentice contract that one day my name would be on that apprentice contract for every new apprentice that signs a contract in the state of Wisconsin. Not only did I know, never would I have guessed. I would have never guessed that, but I never gave up. And that's where the 4 things come in. Real quickly, attitude. I changed my attitude. I decided that I was not going to be who they said I was. I was going to prove everybody wrong, including those guards who said, "We'll see you back." Accountability. I made myself accountable, whether it's to my family, my lovely wife, my kids. I make myself accountable to make sure I never come back. Change my circle. Man, let me tell you, most folks get nervous, boy. You get in the room with the governor, you get in the room with the president, you get in the room with somebody, a high-level CEO. Man, I walk up to them, they put their pants on the same way I do, 1 leg at a time. And that's what it is. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It does not matter if you've been to prison. No one knows that until you tell them most of the time. And the last one is patience. Patience. The absolute most important part of reentry. Patience. You're not going to get everything the first day you get out. You're not going to get everything the first week you get out. You're not going to get everything the first year you get out. I've been out for 17 years this year. It took me 17 years to go from inmate number 305-178 to State Director of Wisconsin Apprenticeships. If I can do it, so can you. Thank you. Look, I have some time left. See,
Joshua Johnson with 8 seconds left. Welcome home, brother.
Thank you.
And don't forget, you can come back from anything.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And my curl was juicy though.
It was. You had plenty carefree jumping off.
I didn't want to have one of the kitchen curls. Oh, did I see her? Real quick, you guys, before she run away again, I just want to give a special thanks to my friend over here, another one of my mentors, another person who helps to better me, Miss J. Tucker over there with WCS. I got to give her a shout out over there. She has been so supportive of me and the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative. When we was putting this conference together, we did this in like 2 months, y'all. It's 2 months, and I was like getting to the point where I'm like, I'm calling Jay. I'm like, Jay, can you look over this? Jay, what you think about this? She's like, just bring it to me. I got you. I'll get my staff to help you. So I just want to give a shout out to you. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much for all that you do to support us. And I want to thank my ladies over here for helping me. Everybody knows red shirts. Those are your volunteers. So I want to thank you ladies for coming out to help us. Brad kind of infiltrated on our red because, you know, all the red was just for us. And then here he come in his red. Somebody get this man a blue shirt, no? So as a matter of fact, oh, okay, I'm going to call Brad to the stage right now.
How y'all doing? I need some love. How y'all doing? Y'all don't understand. Like, y'all don't understand. Like, this is happening. First of all, some of y'all know me, some of y'all don't. My name is Brandon Jordan. I perform under the name Brad Facts. So I rap, I do a few different things, right? But this journey started for me a long time ago. I'm an Army brat, so I've been around the world. We landed in Milwaukee in 1987, right? My father discharged from the military in 87. I probably was the most proper, articulate kid that you'd ever met at the time. And I landed on 23rd and Brown Street. And all of that changed. I'm talking about changed drastically. Crack came into play, my father got hooked on drugs, and a divorce happened with the family. So I kind of lived my life, it was dichotomized by the structure of my mother's house and the anarchy with my father's family. So, like Adam, like Josh, fast forward to about 97 when Milwaukee and Wisconsin was tired of juveniles committing crimes. And I wound up becoming one of those juveniles. They had a thing called SJO, Serious Juvenile Offender. Typically you would go to Wales and you would get 5 years. I think it was 3 in and 2 out, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm thinking, okay, me and my cousin, we had a plan to commit an armed robbery. It was a spontaneous, weird, harebrained plan that we thought we would really get away with. So we left from by my friend's house, walking south on 25th on Brown. It was a random robbery. Not many random robberies produce a lot of money. But at 15, I'm sharp as the tack and twice as shiny. So I thought, right? So we catch a guy. In my mind, I knew I was gonna shoot somebody that night. Because I had been corrupted just that much by not only the streets, but by these people who I so-called idolized, who led me astray for so many years, whether it was my uncles or my brother's friends or whoever it was throughout the neighborhood who I idolized, who I admired, who loved to see ride past in a nice car with nice clothes and whatnot. So I pulled the gun out, pulled the guy in the alley, took his coat off. It's February 1997, 10 degrees outside. I'm 15. And I said, give me everything you got. He didn't have anything. As a matter of fact, when the story came on the news and popped up in the newspaper, it said, the caption read, $1 robbery. I said, damn. So I shot him when I said don't move, and he moved. Because in my mind, he moved. But I was so nervous, I moved and deceived myself into thinking it was him. So we just ran as far as we could, as fast as we could. 4 days went by, my cousin got caught, I got caught, and I got waved into the adult system, right? The unique thing about this is this: they sent me from the detention center up on Watertown Plank Road to the county jail, where I met Mr. Ed Hennings. And I was 15, he was 24. No way we should have been friends, right? But circumstances produce different situations and different friendships and different acquaintances. So they gave me 25 years. They bifurcated my sentence, so they gave me 5 for the shooting and 20 for the armed robbery as a stayed sentence and a probation sentence. The unique thing about the stayed and probation sentence was this: it was parallel. Typically, you get a stayed sentence and probation that's shorter than a stayed. I had 20 years probation and 20-year stay at 15. It was definitely by design for me never to get out and stay out. So I did 3.5 years. I come home at 18, and I was out for 7 months. And I went back, I got revoked. I'm part of the recidivism problem in Milwaukee, or I was at one point. So I went back for 13 more months, and I got out. At this time, my self-worth, my self-appreciation was so low that I didn't even need friends or anybody else because I was gonna bring them down. So I went back again, 2003. And I got out in February 2004. They gave me an AODA program that I didn't need. I wasn't out long enough to have a drug or an alcohol addiction. So I went back again in 2004. I was working for a moving company. And I found out that if you steal something from a company, the insurance takes care of it. So I said, let me see if this insurance is gonna work. And needless to say, I stole some things. Not just one thing, it was a few of them. But I got caught for one. When I did get caught, I had to fight with the police. And they charged me with attempted to disarm a police officer, resisting or obstructing, fleeing, theft, possession of marijuana. I got my wristband scanned in the county. I said, where the hell I get all these charges from? I don't remember taking the police officer's gun. But that's what they said I did, though. So I got revoked. They dropped all of those charges. I got revoked for a misdemeanor. So from 1997, a 20-year sentence I received in 2004. So I did from July 21st, 2004 until May 3rd, 2016. And I've been home 5 years. And the unique thing about it is this. I got back to a place I know I didn't like. So I had to do some self-analysis, some honest self-analysis. I looked in the mirror and I said, man, what are you doing back here? If they hooked me up to a polygraph test and asked me, do you like prison? I would pass it with flying colors if I said no. I don't belong here. But my mentality wasn't saying that, though. So I had to change my mentality. So I changed everything about myself, the way I ate, the way I walked, the way I talked, the people I hung with, the books I read, the movies I watched, the music I listened to, the way I wrote raps, everything. I changed every single thing about myself because I said to myself, they won't get another chance at getting me in this situation. Thank you. So I took every program I could think of taking. Most of them was voluntary because those were the things that I did to help myself grow. Everything I did was conducive to my own growth. So I came home 2016, right? And I said to myself, I have forged and built relationships with people. Adam, Ed, my brother Perry Marshall back there, I see you. And I said to myself, I want to keep these relationships intact. So at the time, Ed was working at G's Clippers. I went and got a haircut every week. Even when I ain't need one, I would just go get lined up, man, here go $10, whatever the case is. So I knew I needed to do something in my life that would positively impact the people that I just left. I chose to be a representative of them because for all intents and purposes, in the eyes of the world at large, I'm still one of them. So I went back to Oshkosh, where I did a decade, and I visited several different people. And the COs was like, oh my God, Jordan is here. Yeah, I'm here. But for different reasons, though. So you fast forward, I came home, and I had an idea to write a book. But I didn't want to just write any book, no urban novels, any books. So I wrote a book entitled Courage Under Fire. And the subtitle is, Nothing Changes Unless You Change. And this book was released in February of this year. It's in the prisons now, it's on Barnes & Noble, it's on Amazon. So my whole thing is, this is my story. It's what I lived. But I was inspired by other people. So my story is to inspire other people. I just never gave up. That's the unique thing about success is persistence is the hallmark of winners. You just never stop. Even when people would say, man, Brad don't want nothing out of life, he keep going back to prison, they don't want to do nothing. I said to myself, I know I'm gonna be okay. See, I was growing up. And growing up, you make mistakes. You falter, you stumble, you trip, and sometimes you fall. But I always stood tall because I knew my self-worth at some point would evolve from what it once was to what it is right now. So right now, I got a company called Powerglass, P-O-U-R, which is a play on hourglass because time is the most essential thing that we have. So let's not waste that. And as I always say, for those that know, be powerful, be purposeful, and always stand on principle. Y'all take it easy.
Let's get another round of applause. Appreciate that. I gotta tell you, people say it all starts with a change of mind. Change your mind, change your heart. Welcome back, brother. And remember, you can come back from anything.
Definitely.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
And last but not least, but I put a little spin on this one. He didn't even know this was coming. He didn't know this was coming. I'm gonna have somebody else introduce this guy right here.
Is it still morning? Because if it is, good morning or good afternoon, not gonna take long. My name is Lindsay Draper. I am thrilled to be here. Have a brief introduction because I need the gentleman I'm going to introduce to get the chance to do the story and tell. But I want to tell you, I got a call asking if I would be prepared to present a plaque to Tori Johnson. And Natasha and Jay, I have to thank for thinking of me, but I want to be sure you understand, first off, why I was surprised, secondly, why it meant so much to me. I know Tori because he and I met at Children's Court. I was working in the district attorney's office. I was prosecuting Tori. I used to be heard saying, "Lock him up." And that was how he and I got together. We, however, shared a very wonderful lady in our respective lives, Janetta Robinson from Career Youth Development. One of the things that Janetta always pushed hard in talking to me, because at one point I was head of the district attorney's office at Children's Court, was you have no right to give up on a child. And, you know, those of you who knew her know that whatever it was she said to you, you needed to listen to. And she wasn't gonna let you get away with it if you didn't. I had the chance to see Tori grow at CYD. I had the chance to learn from this young man, because as much as I saw myself as representing people in the community who had been victimized, I also got the chance to see and learn it did not matter that you had fallen. What mattered was that you got up. And that was a lesson that I learned, and I got the chance to watch somebody who embodied that as much as anybody I've ever seen. Somebody who had messed up, but who not only turned it around, but who made sure that he contributed to that community that I call myself protecting in a way that I never could have. I got the chance as a prosecutor to react. He dedicated himself to acting, to interacting with young people, to spending time in the community, to showing what the right path was. The reason that I was so proud, because frankly, when I got asked to do this, I said, I'd be happy to do it, but you might want to check with him to be sure he wants me to. And so when I heard that he had said, well, yeah, go ahead, I was so thrilled because I got the chance to say, rarely has there been somebody who wasn't my family who taught me as much about watching how you look at other people. Because you think you know who you're dealing with, and you can be so wrong. You can be so wrong. Tori has spent decades teaching me that lesson. Excuse me. And you have no idea how proud I am on Juneteenth Day when I'm watching him lead people down the street, when I'm seeing him marshaling folks, when I see him giving back to the community in ways that those days that I was out at the court center, I would never have imagined. So one of the lessons or one of the thoughts that I want to leave with you is this isn't just about the fact that you can do well in your lives. You can teach people who need to learn lessons, some very valuable lessons. It's my pleasure to serve as, I followed Keith, and I don't see him anymore, as board chair at the Alma Center. I'm so thrilled with our Welcome Home events, and I'm board chair currently at St. Charles Youth and Family Services, because what that does is it gives me the chance to work with young people and adults who are doing the reentry piece, getting back into the community, gives me the chance to contribute as well. But you have no idea how often I wonder, how do you say to people, please don't forget how proud we are when we see that you have not only fallen but have gotten up. Tori, I am so thrilled to present you today.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess they found one way to choke me. You know, I'm gonna keep it real. When I first walked in here and seen Mr. Draper, it was an honor because, like, when listening to the other brothers, I feel like an old man. You know what I'm saying? Because that was 77 and 78, and I wasn't no joke. You know, at one time. And then I had Miss Gallimore too. Don't forget Miss Gallimore, my PO. She'll say, lock him up, and when she get to the courtroom, she say, let him go home. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of what I did, she'll say, let him go home. Even I thought she was crazy. I said, you know what I'm saying? But I loved her for that. And Miss Robinson was always there for me all the way to the end. You know, when people say that people like faking it, I used to have to check Miss Robinson a couple of times. I said, she can't be for real. And she was all the way to the end. And sometimes that's why I grew up like being in a circle with people, and I be trying to figure out, are you real? If you ain't constantly real and consistently real, you ain't real. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I feel about this, you know. So, and to say that I love a man that said, lock him up, I do, you know what I'm saying? Because at that point, I needed to be locked up, you know what I'm saying? But as I grew up, it's just not locking me up, it's what you do with me after you lock me up. You know what I'm saying? That's what I fight for now, is because, you know what I'm saying, it's hard out here. And I was raised by a stepmother that I love dearly, you know what I'm saying, but I don't think it was all the way it was supposed to be. You know, like I tell people, I was locked up before I went to jail at home. You know what I'm saying? Behind the door with a padlock. You know, I argue with my brother now that I called him my jailer. You know what I'm saying? Boy, you was crazy. I'm like, no, you still crazy to believe that was straight. You know what I'm saying? My birth mama died when I was 2 months, and my father died when I was 7 years old. So I hated the world and everybody in it. You know what I'm saying? And whatever happened at my home, I took out on everybody that I seen. You couldn't be laughing and joking and I'm crying. I'm gonna break your house windows. I'm gonna tear up your car. I'm gonna rip up your lawn. Then I'll be happy. The same thing the kids doing today. You know what I'm saying? I did an armed robbery at 12 going on 13 at Juneau High School. You know what I'm saying? And they say, oh, the kids bringing guns to school. We did it too. You know, until I was like, what they call that, trying to get the pardon. I had to go back and get some juvenile stuff. And then it said, and I'm reading the psychiatrist stuff, they said Tory was suicidal. I said, damn, I was suicidal? I had to remember that. Then I said, yeah, but it got so deep that I could take myself out. You know what I'm saying? And instead of taking the people out that was hurting me, I decided to take myself out. Then I changed that up too. You know what I'm saying? It's like life is deep because most of us started off victims first. Then we start victimizing other people. You know what I'm saying? But we mostly started off victim first. Then we start victimizing ourselves. And then after a while, when I started growing up, cause I went to jail every day, every month, a couple of days, a couple of years. I always went to jail. So prison and jail was my home. You know, I went to jail so I wouldn't be at home. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us, you know what I'm saying, you run across that, you say, man, you shouldn't even be here. And they say, what you doing here? You know what I'm saying? And what I've been doing all these years now is trying to help other people understand. It's like shake that excuse. You know, it's like understand the pain, but then don't hold on to it and use it against yourself, because now we know right from wrong. And mistakes is not intentional acts. It's like, it might be a poor decision, but it ain't no intentional act. Then you got brothers like these and sisters too that's doing well. People don't like us. You know what I'm saying? Because they get paid too much money off of us. They don't want us to change. That's why they say, y'all sit down and shut up. Because we don't want these other brothers and sisters coming out of jail and not doing nothing. And then it's not just that we want you to come out of jail. Let's put some out of here for when they get out. You know what I'm saying? Our neighborhoods is terrible. When you do 1 or 2 years, see, once you get in the hood, you really can't see it. You can see it, but you can't see it. But when you come out after 2 or 3 years, it scares you. You be like, what the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? And then we just start living in it. People say trash, waste is a terrible thing. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. We say waste is a terrible thing for the mind. You know what I'm saying? I went from being a client at WCS, Wisconsin Community Services, on drugs. A client, Gwen, convinced me into taking my butt to DePaul Hospital. I was sitting in them groups like, boy, this is crazy. You know what I'm saying? But then I went to penitentiary, and they had a program called Choice Program, and my brother was like, man, go to that program. I said, man, I'm not going no program, crawling on no floors, putting no taller stools on my head, none of that. You know what I'm saying? He said, hey, man, but you got 3 more years to do, and you could be out in 6 to 9 months. Then I got to thinking about that. I said, I might have to go over there. And then I happened to have Charles Jackson, Horseman, that was over there. And I wasn't feeling the program, but eventually, to make it short, I became the leader of the program. You know, then I had Melvin Grant that was in Wall Pond doing a life sentence. And Melvin, I knew from the street wasn't no joke, and I was a younger version of no joke. So I looked up to Melvin, even though I stood with him and found out I fought against him. And Melvin always checked you, oh, brother, you talk crazy, you talk crazy. And then I'm trying to figure out, Melvin, you must have went crazy, because this is what I'm supposed to be. You know, and before I went to Wisconsin prison, and I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I went to Stateville. And when I went to Stateville, and Jolly Eddie had a sign out on Jill that said, let time serve you on the church. And I kept walking past that and I asked the person, what that mean? You know what I'm saying? And he said, you know what I'm saying, I don't know. But as I sat there, I realized that let time serve you mean just don't serve time. Let time do something with it. So now I'm the program manager at WCS. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I brought my crew with me because, you know what I'm saying, and I done helped WCS create, you know what I'm saying, 5, 6, 7 programs. And I help programs all across the city. But what we got to do is stand up and remember to always be proud and love yourself. And don't let people use you, because they use us too now. Don't let people use you. I got to work with this person and they getting paid and you ain't. You know what I'm saying? You got to do that. I'm going to cut it short because my life goes on forever. You know what I'm saying? So I can't tell my life story. And I love y'all. And hey, thank you, Lindsay Draper, and everybody that helped me. Thank everybody, and I love everybody. Thank you.
Let's give another hand for Tojo.
Yeah. That's my man. I appreciate it.
For brother Tory Johnson, brother, I'm gonna say something real special here. I'm so happy you talked about your life and where you are right now, because you've been an inspiration to me and the people who I work with. We always are talking about you. You are the definition of victory, brother.
Thank you, brother.
We got to give that to you.
Thank you.
And I want to also say, the information you said about Brother Lindsay Draper, Sister Janetta Robinson, God rest her soul, let me tell you something. I didn't believe in a school-to-prison pipeline until I met her decades ago, and she made me a believer in this right here. So,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
welcome back, brother. You can come back from anything. You don't want it. All right, we'll talk soon. Oh, yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, that was what this is all about, and there's more to come. I'm here to let you know that the gentlemen who you saw are just a small drop in the ocean. And I know we have the same type of stories and even more remarkable stories that are sitting out in this audience out here. We may not know your stories. Please talk to me. Please talk to Tasha while we're here. Please talk to everybody. We want to know you. Think of this as family. We don't want to leave here without knowing who we're related to. We have a special guest in the house, and I want to acknowledge there's been a lot of great things said about the type of support that he's given to making this event happen and making a lot of special activities happen in the city of Milwaukee and making Milwaukeeans proud. I don't want to delay the introduction. I think everybody in this room knows this person's face, they know this person's name, and they know what this person is all about. I graciously introduce to you the Honorable Mayor of the City of Milwaukee, our mayor, home of champions, Tom Barrett.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you very much for that kind introduction. It's great to be here. It's great to see all of you here today, and I'm really, really pleased that this conference is going on, because I think one of the challenges we have in our city and one of the challenges we have in our county, in our state, our nation is how do we make sure every individual in our society counts? How do we make sure that every individual in our society is respected? How do we make sure that every individual in our society is given a second chance? And the reason that that is so important is because we're all humans. We all make mistakes. When I have people come to me and they're going to run for office, one of the things I do tell them is, think of the worst thing you've ever done in your life. Don't tell me what it is. Think of the worst thing that you've ever done in your life. Now think about having it on the news at 10 o'clock tonight. And I can guarantee you, everybody, and I mean everybody, pauses and goes, oh. Because we've all made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. And we have to understand that forgiveness and opportunity are part of what we need to do as people. Now, I'll also tell you one of the things, and I haven't done it in a couple of years, but over the years, I've made several trips down to the Racine Correctional Institute. And I've done so to talk to the individuals, and I called the warden and said, I want to talk to the men who are going to be coming back to Milwaukee. So we set it up, and I go in, and I've talked to them, and I explained to them that we have a lot in common. At least I believe we have a lot in common. That when they get out and come to Milwaukee, they don't want to get in trouble and go back. And from my standpoint as mayor, when they get out and come back to Milwaukee, I don't want them to get in trouble and go back. So we've got a lot in common right off the bat. And so I talked to them about various things, and I've asked them, I'm in the community a lot. And I've said to this group, and I've said, again, this is 3 different groups. I've said, I will guarantee you that someone from this group, this is down at the Racine Correctional Institute, I guarantee you that someone will see me in the community. And what I want you to do is I want you to come up to me and tell me how you're doing. And I am proud to report that I've had not 1, not 2, but 3 individuals who I said that to over the years stop me. The first one was at a Culver's. And I'm standing there getting ready to order, and there's a guy behind the counter, and he's waving at me and smiling at me like we're best friends. I'm thinking, I have no idea who you are. And then he comes around, and he says, I just want you to know I'm making it. I just want you to know I'm making it. And I got goosebumps. I was so excited. And it happened, seen a construction worker on the south side, on about 6th in Washington, and then at a festival. And so I say that because we're all going to be part of the community, and it's important that we do everything we can to support each other. But there's one person in this community who has a record of being part of this community, in helping this community, in fostering this community, and that's G, from G's Clippers, who is here today and who's going to talk to you in just a moment. So I want to tell you another story, a quick story here, because it wasn't that long ago, it was just several months ago, and a woman came to me and she said, you came to my son's Eagle Scout Award. And she said, he became an Eagle Scout through the troop that went through G's Clippers. G has supported a Boy Scout troop, and one of the scouts made it all the way through to Eagle Scouting, which is a big deal. And his mother obviously was proud, and I was proud to be there. But it's important that we have people, mentors like G, and anybody in this room who can help young people get on the straight and narrow path. And I'm proud of the work that G has done, and the work that he has done to foster young people in this community, to give them a chance, and to make sure that they know that they will be accepted. So it is my honor now to introduce G. Smith from G's Clippers to talk to you for a few minutes. G, come on down.
Give it up for our mayor once again. Thank you, Mayor Barrett. I really appreciate that. When I tell you I'm called to to speak on a couple occasions here and there. But being called for an event such as this, to introduce a guy that's so amazing, that has truly impacted my life in ways that I didn't think that this individual could ever, from meeting him like I've met him. When I tell you this brother, I get emotional, I'm serious, even talking about this brother. I mean, when I tell you the love I got for this brother, man, surpasses, most relationships I have garnered in the city of Milwaukee over these years. Well, let me tell you guys about how I met Ed Hennings. I got a call at the barbershop one day, a guy that got his barber license when he was incarcerated. And he wanted to work at G's Clippers. And, I asked the questions that I typically ask, and I found out that this brother did 20 years in jail. He did 20 years in prison, and G's Clippers has been known amongst certain circles to hire a lot of ex-offenders, because I feel that who will give these individuals a second chance? So I'm always that guy that's always open to give someone a second chance. But I heard 20 years. And then I talked to my two managers, my main manager, my assistant manager. I said, listen, man, this guy, do you know a guy named Ed Hennings, man? They call him Toby. I know you did, time. I know, you did some time as well. Two of them heard about him and had nothing but great things to say about him. But then the two managers were like, man, gee, you sure you want to take that on, man? 20 years. Just think, he's been out of society for 20 years. Man, I got you, man, if you want to take it on. Long story short, Ed was coming to G's, his first day at G's. And when I tell you, I think it was a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and which is typically a slower day in the barbershop. We had like 35 waiting room chairs. When this guy got out, every last chair in that waiting room was full of his friends and family. That spoke volumes to me. And I told him I have never seen anything like that in my life. That told me so much about this brother. I was just amazed. And when I tell you, that was nothing for what was to come. I learned so much from this brother. And I tell Ed so much. Listen, look at this room right now. And the mayor of the city of Milwaukee is here in support of this brother and what he's doing. He spoke. This is a person a lot of people threw away. Y'all even say the same thing about Josh. Extreme success story. And my brother, and my cousin, we ain't blood, that's my family, Brandon. I love you, baby, love you. Tori, man, amazing job speaking. But Ed, listen, let me tell you something, man. Them conversations I had, when this dude, I just love hearing him talk, y'all. He got so much gems, man. His flow is amazing. The way he stretch your thinking. I'm like, man, you really made the most out of those 20 years, man. Sis, God is proud, man. You have not buried your gift, man. You are really expounding on what God has blessed you with over these past 20 years. You made the best out of it, bro. And you ain't just impacting lives in Wisconsin, but abroad, man. I'm so proud of you, bro. I mean, whenever I see a post, man, you make me proud. I feel like, and we only about a year or two apart, but I feel like that proud big bro, you know what I'm saying? Man, you make me proud daily, man. So just keep it up. Y'all, and listen, y'all gonna hear from Ed after lunch, but thank you so much for having me. And I pray that each and every one of y'all get impacted in some way by the words that said by Ed and the individuals that came before him. Thanks again.
quick. I know y'all ate already. Where's Pastor Rodney Campbell to come bless this food that y'all ate already? You know, I grew up in the South. They used to make us scared to eat before we bless the food. My grandma like, you can't eat before you bless that food. I used to be like, what's gonna happen to me? So
Amen. If we could just pause for a second. Dear Most High, we thank you for this day. We thank you for allowing us to come together. We thank you for the comeback that we are all making today. We thank you for the come up that they will make. We ask you to bless this food, bless each and every one that is here today, and give them the confidence to endure. And we give you glory and honor in your name. Amen.